Game balance is extremely difficult. Some might even say impossible, and nobody can actually do it perfectly. But I never said I didn't have an inflated ego and a god complex, so here's how to fix Trapper. The Trapper's power is, well, traps. I mean, come on, this isn't your creative writing class where we try to interpret the author's feelings from the color of the goddamn curtains. He's called the Trapper, and he lays traps to catch poor baby Dwights and overconfident Kate Dennison players who never look in front of them while they're running. You start the trial with 2 traps base kits. This can be increased to 3 with one add-on and 8 with another add-on, and trust me, we'll get to those later. And when you spawn in, your other 6 traps are scattered around the map normally in the dumbest locations imaginable, and they're not already set. The idea of the playstyle for this killer is to use the first 1 to 2 minutes of the match collecting traps and setting up a kill zone, which leads me to there are 2 strengths for the Trapper and a whole ass load of weaknesses, so let's get the 2 strengths out of the way first. Number 1, the Trapper is very good at area control. If you can find a nice 3-gen at the beginning of the match, you can pretty much guarantee a 3 to 4k that match by using your traps to make the area intraversable. You could also do things like Basement Trapper, making rescues basically in the game very early, or one of my favorite things to do is in-game Trapper, using a perk setup like Fire Up, Remember Me, No Way Out, and No Ed. You spend the beginning of the match setting up your traps at the 2 exit gates, 3 on each, and then the last 2 for emergencies, and then you spend the match getting as many hook states as possible before actually catching the survivors off guard, like you just walked in on them masturbating the furry porn. Number 2, the Trapper excels at being a paranoia machine. Because survivors are constantly having to watch out for your traps, they can end up taking weird pathways and even making mistakes whenever they're trying to loop, because they never truly know where your traps are unless they can see them. Of course, this only works very, very rarely, and most of the time, you'll find yourself being a killer without a power. Whoa! Stumbled into a weakness, haven't I? Okay, well, let's start there. Your traps are embarrassingly easy to spot. I've had matches where I can't catch a single survivor. If the survivors are even slightly aware of their surroundings, you'll find them disarming your traps all match. And trust me, constantly hearing gets pretty tilting pretty fucking quickly. There is an add-on that's supposed to help camouflage your traps, but what it actually does is darken your traps, and I'm gonna cover this a little bit later, but that's fucking stupid. On some maps like Leary, Eyrie of Crows, Ormond, Coldwind Farms, pretty much majority of the maps in the game, the traps stick out like a sore thumb with that add-on, and without it, they still stick out like a sore thumb because they are naturally dark red. And so really the only place that you can ever really camouflage them is in places like tall grass or under or around like unsuspecting corners. And this sounds like a great play style to try to work with until you realize that the hitbox of the traps is embarrassingly fucking small. I've seen survivors just walk straight over traps because they managed to hit the little arms on the side instead of the actual trap. The hitbox of the trap is so small that it's actually crazy how people even manage to get caught in the traps. Again, you have to be able to catch the survivors off guard, but if they know that there's traps there, they're going to be looking for them, and they'll take different pathways if they have to. I've tried to set up this whole anti-loop tile thing before, and watching the survivors just go to another loop and tell me to go fuck myself is pretty embarrassing. Trapper also requires way too much prep time, especially if you didn't bring the purple bag add-on, which helps, but not that much. Basically what it does is it takes all 8 of the traps that can spawn on the map and it puts them in your inventory, which is great, but you also can't move them. So if you're going to be running this add-on, you need to know what it is you're going to be doing. Are you going to be playing Basement Trapper, in-game Trapper, or are you going to find a 3-gen to try to trap up? Because once that trap goes down, it's there forever. You can't relocate it. It's just going to be sitting there. And if you fuck up and you place a trap where you don't want to place it, then you're going to end up in a scenario where you've got one trap sitting off in the corner of the map where nothing is, just sitting crying and texting its mom and wishing that it had gone to med school or some shit. Anyway, the purple bag add-on removes a good 2 minutes or so of prep time, depending on the map, but that still leaves around 60 to 90 seconds needed to actually set up. The Trapper is way too slow for this playstyle. He has 115% speed, which is the average for most killers, but the other 2 trap-based killers in the game, Hag and Freddy, both have teleport abilities, which helps with their prep time. They can get to the other ends of the map that they need to, and it also, they don't have to go collect their fucking power to relocate it like an obsessive leprechaun who keeps having his pot of gold found and stolen. The lack of map traversal is really felt when some sap manages to trip one of your traps across the map and you don't have the Hone Stone equipped. The Hone Stone, by the way, is honestly one of the best add-ons for the trapper, and it puts the survivor into the dying state when they free themselves from a trap. But by the time you lug your big impeding ass over there, you'll find that your trap is undone, the survivor is gone, there's been a raging kegger, and the words "trapper is a loser" is written on a wooden sign hanging on a nearby finished generator. Oh! And they just finished the last gen, opened the gates, and are teabagging while flashlight spamming at the end gate. So go fuck yourself, I guess. The biggest weakness of the trapper is his piss poor chaseability. You're supposed to lay traps at loops while in chase, but your traps take way too long to place and are as loud as the THX intro screen, and you bend over to do it. You're as tall as shit, so you're easily spotted doing this touch your toes routine, and the survivor can just fuck off in another direction, leaving your killing boner unfulfilled and you feeling the need to call your mom up and apologize for being such a disappointment to her. So how do we fix all of this nonsense? Well, first thing that I want to look at is I want to look at buffing the traps themselves. One of the biggest problems is that the traps do not do enough. They merely injure, which is great, but again, you're so slow that that mere injure is not enough. And I really feel like there could be more to it. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to completely remove the add-on that inflicts deep wounds on the traps. And the trap should inflict deep wound by default. Deep wound is a really great debuff for somebody like Trapper who doesn't have much else to him. If you give the Trapper the ability to inflict deep wound as base kit, then that means that people are going to be able to dead hard less away from you. It's going to make chasing a little bit easier, and that's something that he really, really needs. The second thing that I would do is I would make his traps have a skill check. If skill checks fail, they trigger a loud noise and the disarm meter resets. Remember earlier when I mentioned that his traps are really easy to see, and so when people are disarming them, they're just constantly going off in your ear, and you just keep hearing go psh, go psh, go psh. It's one of the most annoying things to deal with. So I really think that a skill check, even if it's something that's relatively easy, should definitely be a part of it. And then if a survivor disarms a trap, give the trapper killer instinct for like 2 seconds. It doesn't have to be very long. It doesn't have to be a lot. It just kind of helps the trapper understand what's going on and where people might be. The final thing that I want to do is actually improve this shit add-on. Right now, all it does is darken the appearance of the traps. I think it should blend with the color of the environment. So if you're on Eyrie of Crows, then it's a more tannish color. If you're on Leary's, then it's a more dull gray white color. If you're on Caldwin, then it's got that more yellowy tint to it. And you leave this as an add-on. And thinking back on it now, I would also like to give the Killer Instinct buff idea to add-ons as well, because I'm about to remove 2 add-ons from the game with this next idea. The purple bag should be base kit. Or at the very least, traps that spawn in the map should spawn in open. I hate that traps do not spawn in already set. I think it's a really stupid mechanic, and I don't understand the restriction on this. Now, that being said, I would much prefer purple bag to be base kit. And you can keep it the same where you can't pick up and relocate your traps. You can keep it that way and make that base kit. I would prefer you didn't, but I do understand if people want it to be that way. But it just seems silly to me that Trapper has to continuously walk around the map collecting his own goddamn power majority of the time. No other killer has to do this. Even the other 2 trap-based killers have the ability to just place their traps from the get-go. It is ridiculous that he has to go and collect these. He should spawn in with all of them. And honestly, this should have been the case a long time ago. Trapper needs a faster walking speed when not in chase. This was an original idea that I was going to give where I had said that 4.8 should be his walking speed when he's not in chase. That way he can traverse the map a little bit easier. He can go to and from loops, and he can follow up on his traps that have been triggered and things like that. However, after thinking about this, I realized that this would make Trapper a little too strong, as he would be able to patrol gens highly effectively to an almost too powerful degree. So instead, if we're going to be giving the purple bag as base kit, it means that both the purple bag and the green bag are going to be taken out. The add-on that inflicts deep wounds by default will also be taken out, and while we're at it, let's also take out padded jaws because that add-on sucks ass. With that in mind, we should then add 3 add-ons, a yellow, a green, and a purple, that all give him 5, 10, and 15% haste for 5 seconds whenever a trap is triggered. Because we've got the bag and because he doesn't have to go back and forth collecting his power, this way the haste that it's given allows him to follow up on his traps a little bit easier. Not only that, but if someone else triggers a trap on the other side of the map while you're currently in chase, then that's a little bonus for you. It gives you a little bit of a surprise factor, which really helps his chase ability all too well. Finally, the last thing I want to do is say that he should not be stopped by his traps. That should just be base kit. That removes another add-on as well, which removes a lot of the clutter from him. And I didn't really come up with ideas to replace the 2 add-ons that I've suggested we remove, but I also like the idea of removing a lot of the clutter from what he had. Look, I like the Trapper. I think he's probably one of the best designed in the game as far as the idea behind his power. I like the strategy. I like how he's supposed to work. And I like how bare bones it is as well. It's very simple. Set trap, hope they step into trap. But he needs more to him. He needs a rework that would completely and utterly bring him up from the bottom of the barrel. Trapper, as he stands, is a bottom tier killer. Absolute trash. And you have to have a lot of skill and a lot of hours in him to make him effective, which is not good design. He needs to have more to him that gives him more of an oomph. And I believe that this rework is not something that would bring him all the way up to A tier, but it doesn't have to. It would probably bring him into the C, maybe lower B tier at best, and I think that's what needs to happen. I don't think there should ever be killers that feel worthless to play, and unfortunately, without a lot of effort and a lot of hours understanding him and a lot of just nonsense, he's always going to feel bad to play. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am working on one for Hillbilly as well. And there's going to be a bunch of other ones coming down the road. I've got an idea for a video on Nurse, and as I play more killers, I'm definitely going to have an idea for a lot more of them. If you want to see me play Dead by Daylight live, you guys can always head down to the link in the description and join us over on Twitch. If you guys are interested in storytelling videos, I also have a main channel that you can also find in the link in the description down below. And we have a Discord where we'd love to see you there. Other than that, I hope you guys had a very, very good Christmas period, and I will see you in the next one.